Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good half into the night, wherever you are. This is Spitfire coming out again with another tank review, and this time we're going to look at the M60-2000, which was released just today. The M60-2000 is kind of what happens if a M1 Abrams and a M60 had a baby. It has a buffed M60 A3 hull with no ERA and an M1A1 turret. Meaning that this vehicle kind of plays like what the American Heavy line, well, the Tier 7 and Tier 8 American Heavies, the T-29 and the T-32 were doing a lot of tanks. I.e. they have extremely strong turrets but a weak frontal, but a weak hull. This is shown in the armour specs, in which the hull only has 320mm at the size, but the turret has a whopping 636, and this thing does not have a turret weak spot, meaning that even anti-tank missiles will struggle to get through once you're hull down. The only problem is getting into those hull down positions. As you know, since it's an M60 hull, the side and the rear are an absolute paper, and the turret is huge, meaning that turning that turret when you're hull down, people are going to start shooting at that very weak turret rear, that very weak turret side over there. Of course, since this is the M1A1 turret, the M62, that's what I'm going to call it now, comes with the 120mm gun. This 120mm gun has 468 damage and 470mm of penetration. In comparison to the M1A1, which has 525 and 541, you're basically playing with a slightly nerfed 120mm. You get the full crew, so gunner, driver, loader. I said those two wrong, so you can go for full stacking. So an energy drink with Freya, 2.5% reload on the loader, gyroscopic stabilizers, and augmented breach lock. However, go for intercon systems if you want to get that reload down even more. But so far with all of this, I have a reload time of 6.56 seconds. In comparison, my T80 reloads longer. The Mirkova reloads the fastest. The Leopard 2 actually reloads in 6 seconds. I'm not sure why it's there. The Challenger 2 reloads almost the same. So for the most part, you're looking at a comparable shot with most Tier 7 vehicles. Remember that since this has such a weak hull, going head to head is not a good idea. Instead, try to find things like high ground, wrecks, ditches and whatnot to put yourself behind. Now, it comes with one universal, one armour and one firepower slot. Do with them as you see fit. It does not come with high explosive, however. So unloading what I usually take is a 3-to-1, so 3 AP shots for every 1 heat shot. Of course it has a camo. What other stats does the tank have? Minus 10 gun depression, relatively bad camo range, and it's not the fastest vehicle in the world either. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to load up a PvE match, because to be honest, in PvP I was not able to do as well as I usually do. For a good game, which I want to have a vehicle to review, it's usually in the realms of 3000 plus damage. With the M60-2000, however, I wasn't doing very well. So we'll have to go for a PvE match. We'll show off quite well the incredible difference in armour between the turret and the hull. You'll see. So anyway, we're in a Tier 7 game, 2 Challenger 1s, a Weasel and a Centauro 120. Okay, the first thing to note is the vehicle's horsepower per ton. As you can see, it's not the fastest in the world. It's slightly faster than a Challenger, but then again, when do you get prizes for beating a Challenger in a top speed, right? So anyway, at this point I was typing and I was like, oh shit. And you can see how big the turret is compared to the hull. Like I was saying, I mean, if I was hull down like there, you could shoot that back of the turret easily. So anyway, the 120mm is relatively rapid firing. It's relatively punchy, meaning that you'll hit harder than most of the other Tier 7 vehicles. So at this point in time, I'm just trying to figure out how to properly play the vehicle. This was kind of something like this, so you aim to expose as little of the hull as possible. Of course, this is the AI, so you know the AI always aim at one place, but at this point I was theory crafting just to see if the AI could hit me when I was in these positions or not. To be honest, I would say if you're going to test a vehicle, play a PvE match first, so you can get a grip of the ideas, so you don't die a horrible screaming death in PvP because you made a mistake. So anyway, I'm just running around at this point. Upgraded T80 and Stingray. Not really much to deal with at this point. I missed the Stingray. This vehicle doesn't have the greatest accuracy on the move, to be honest. But anyway, good hit. That's a critical hit on the Stingray. Every time it's a yellow, it's a critical hit, meaning that you did more damage. And I aim for the driver's port on that T80. Or the lower hull, I'm not sure. So at this point, I was kind of enjoying it. Some ups and downs, but for the most part, the relatively good reload meant I could keep up with the challenges and deal more damage than they did. Another banging shot into that expeditionary tank over there. 450 damage on average is relatively okay. 5 shots will get you up to about 2,200. So it'll take you about 6 shots or 5 shots, maybe even 7 shots, depending on the highest amount of damage per shot or the lowest amount of damage per shot to take out one of these with another vehicle. So I hit the T-72 and he bounced on me. He actually bounced on the turret. Alright, that's the T-72. Hit on the Type 96. I was actually aiming at the sides there. Hit again, 510 damage. See, they either bounced, they hit the turret again. So now these M8 Thunderbolts are going to take a crack at me. Don't worry, they'll hit me eventually, and yep, hit me right in the hole. Now that's the difference, because if that Thunderbolt was hit me in the turret, wouldn't have gone through. He hits me in the hull, even in the upper hull, would have gone through. At this point I'm just cleaning people up. PvE isn't that particularly challenging, to be honest, otherwise you're in a light tank or an underpowered vehicle or artillery or something, where you don't have the DPM, the armor or the speed to pull things out. So at this point I'm just hitting that challenger. I was actually going through the ERA, and of course he hits me in the hole, so I have to back up a little. This vehicle has... Actually, we'll look at the actual DPM after this battle and compare it to the rest of the tier 7s. So an Ariete over there. One thing to note about the Ariete is that if the Ariete does not have the huge composite blocks it does on the sides, that means its side armor is extremely weak, so even if it does a little bit of angling, you can go straight through that side armor. Some good more 500 damage rolls than the Bradley, to be honest. 500 damage is kind of the norm. I think it's higher than the average damage roll. I don't know, we'll need to take a look afterwards if I remember. So we clean up the Ariete. And when it hits me in the side, and for this point I was just asking if people would cap or not. It's like, guys, cap, please. BMP3 comes up, bang. This thing is, I suppose with heat rounds it's relatively decent towards AFVs and stuff. The turret does traverse relatively quickly. So here we now got the difference between the Thunderbolt shooting at the hull and the Thunderbolt shooting at the turret. See, bounce. And I actually F up there, but hit the turret again. And to be honest, at this point I was I found this to be a relatively enjoyable game. And then I ran out of ammo. So I then had to reload, because there was a T90 MS coming up there. So heat round. Of course, shooting at tier 9s with heat is a good way to get yourself killed. I mean, with that cage armor, they have a set chance to be able to diffuse any shape charge shell being even high explosive, heat rounds, or even anti-tank missiles. So I was like, hey, he's giving my side now, charge! America! Here comes the America train. And he shoots at the tracks. So of course we just blast him in a turret ring. If we're going up against a T90 like that, often aimed at the turret ring or the driver's port especially, will more often than not grant critical damage at every shot. Meaning if your gun has like 500 damage, you hit in the driver's hatch 600, 700. Hell, might even go for the ammo rack. So that was a PvE game. It wasn't really just intended to show you the tank's damage per minute, the mobility, the size of the tank, and where it's strong and where it isn't. Of course, if this was a PvP environment, things would be a lot different, but I'm not that good in it for a PvP. I don't know if it's me or the tank. Probably me. So anyway, let's look at the DPM. The DPM of it is 4,278 in comparison to the Leopard, which is 3,488. The Leopard, which is supposed to have a... Why doesn't the Leopard have any ammo? It's supposed to be a 7-second reload. Anyway, I'm not sure. So, comparison to the Challenger 1, which has 4,045, the Mukova, which is sitting around at 3,900, the T80, of course, which has the highest, Type 90 having roughly more, and the XM1 having less. So this tank does have a pretty competitive damage per minute, allowing you to put out shots over and over and over again. But remember, exposing yourself will lead to people hitting you and penetrating you. So keep that in mind. This is not a brawler. This is not a challenger style MBT where you can go out in front and engage people. It will require caution, it will require terrain, and it will require a lot more effort to do the same damage on games as the other tier 7 MBTs. Anyway, I hope this helped, and that's it for the review, I think. Good luck and take care out there, guys.